Hello. Welcome to the session on classy panel styles. Can I please get a raise? No, don't shut the doors. Don't. Okay. We're gonna get hot. It's all good. Maybe just that one. Yeah, there you go. Good. Leave them open. Yeah. Right. Knock it off. We gotta leave it open, Doug. It's too hot. It's too hot. Can I get a raise of hands? Who has heard of classy panel styles before today? All right.
Like reviewing the schedule yesterday count?
No, it does not count. But outside of this presentation, who has heard of it? Okay, who's using it in production? All right, we got one media current. Matt Connerton, one of the organizers, is actually using this in production, even though it is not currently yet a full project. He's actually using like an old version that is totally not compatible with the current version. It's currently still a sandbox module. Just submitted yesterday for full project status. So if we have any project reviewers in the room with who can approve projects, please do so. I've kicked it to Damien McKenna. Hopefully he'll get to it soon. So a little bit of background. It was originally a module or an approach defined by Kendall Totten and Jason Smith at Media Current for a variety of projects that they had at the time. It's currently being used on the Weather Channel's project, our own Media Current website, and a project codenamed Bacon, and some other projects that we have going on. And it was developed by this themer, Kendall Totten. Some of you may know her. She's not here today, but I'm reusing some slides, so she's there. You can tweet at her. You can't tweet at me. I just don't have Twitter, so you can contact me through Drupal.org. I'm Derek.Deraps or Derek Deraps, I forget. So yeah, the initial concept came from Kendall, and it was an idea of how to empower editors. You know, she's a themer, but she wanted a system where editors could easily, using panels, we're a big panel shop, could easily change the layouts and styles of their pages without, what's built into panels and panels IPE, the Inplace editor, weren't sufficient. So we needed something more powerful than that, and that's where this idea was born. Another alternate title for this is Death to the WYSIWYG, because I am on a personal rampage to kill the WYSIWYG in 90% of the scenarios that it's being used right now. Rock on, that's right. So it definitely has its place. WYSIWYGs have their place, but laying out content is not one of those places, in my opinion. So the idea is to bridge the divide between themers and content editors. So we've got themers who can do amazing, wonderful stuff, and then content editors who are usually given one giant WYSIWYG and told, make beautiful content. And so I'm having my photo taken in case self-conscious. And so what we're trying to do is bridge that divide. We want the themers to develop a system through classy panel styles that empowers the site's editors to do really amazing, to create really amazing content that is responsive. Oops, skip some slides. So we need to figure out where to draw that line. Where does theming end and content editing start? And we, both developers and themers, we don't like WYSIWYGs because it's hard to make it responsive. You don't have any control over what gets put in there. And it's hard for content editors, right? Usually they get one little drop down of styles. You might even get fancy and have a style that says, float left, and the editor's like, what? Float? Okay, well let me change the name. So, it allows them to do basic things like floating, adding some basic classes, but that's usually not enough. So we have usually, if you're using panels, which I presume most of you know what panels is, being in here. If you're using panels, you've got kind of this main content area that editors have control over. They might even have control over several different parts of the content area, right? They might have different WYSIWYGs. And how can you allow editors to lay out content in there without giving them source access to the WYSIWYG and teaching them how to apply the classes, how to use CSS to achieve their results. So, for example, what if you want a multi-column layout and you want to allow them to float images left and right, add padding. These are all things that you can do with, say the image button inside of a WYSIWYG, but it's very limited, and even then it's kind of difficult for editors to figure out. It's Kendall's slides. So I take no responsibility for the GIFs or the I'm a GIF man, not a GIF man, for the GIFs in this presentation. So Kendall is really big on empowering editors to create content that is responsive. It's not actually baked into the module right now. I bent her arm and forced her to pull it out because it was dependent on some external libraries that I wasn't comfortable committing with the module. But she's slowly adding that back in with Borealis, if you're familiar with that, and it's going to produce some extra sample styles within classy panel styles that will allow this responsive, allow editors to create responsive content. So without them having to learn how to write media queries or any of that other front-end stuff that I don't understand. Another disclaimer, I'm not a front-end guy. I'm a total back-end guy. I'm collaborating with Kendall she basically has all these fancy ideas, and half of them I say that's just garbage, that's not possible. And the other ones I say, okay, that's great, I can do that, I can make that work. So I'm kind of the power behind the module, and she's the ideas. Okay, so what does it do? What Classy Panel Styles does is it exposes a form builder that themers use to create a set of styles that editors then apply to to the content, to the pane and region styles. So if you're familiar with panels, you can change the style that's associated with a given pane, region, or display. And when when the content is being set up, you'll be choosing classy panel styles, and then what that does is expose a set of options that the themer has created ahead of time. And associated with the given option, let's see if we get this. So this is an example of the style settings form on a pane or a region. So these are all set up behind the scenes by the themer. So this is all configuration. And behind the scenes, each of these options, each of these settings here, has a class or a series of classes associated with it that the themer has whipped up, right? So they've created all the complex styles that they want their editors to be able to use. And then they expose it through this nice form, so the editors don't actually need to know anything about classes. They don't need to know anything about the CSS, what's happening behind the scenes. They just can pick from a ready-made list of styles that the themer has created. So it allows them to control layout. Basically anything you can do with CSS, you can pop in here, and it gets applied to the panes and the regions. So why is this necessary, and why can't we just use regular panels layouts and let editors choose which layout they want? Well, here's an example. Panoply, which we're totally in favor of Panoply, that distribution, and some of the great work it's doing with panels. However, if you look at all these options here, there's a lot of options. But there are still cases where this doesn't fit exactly what the editors need to be able to do in the content region. You could create 100 different panels layouts and make the icons form, and the editor would have to choose and pick, which one fits it exactly. And there still would be cases where it's not quite right. So the approach we're using here is kind of in between this fixed layout style and a WYSIWYG, where it's just a total blank slate. And we're allowing the editors to create content regions and then arrange them using CSS that the themer has created. So another option is, of course, you could use the builder layout, right? Just teach the editors how to use the panels flexible layout builder, or whatever this is called, which is a really neat idea, except it creates markup like this. Right, it's really nasty. It's the themer's worst nightmare. Especially, Mike, I know how much you love having extra markup and divs in there. So it's not very pretty. So what is novel about this? What is so great about it? Well, it allows these editors to apply these styles, like I said, without having to remember the class names, without having to know anything about CSS, without having to know about the back end of how panels works, without having to change the style settings associated with a given pane or region. And it updates, well, I'm going to show you an example in a minute, where it actually updates in the back-end editor. So let's go ahead and jump to that. So this is the back-end panels editor. You can see there's some customizations going on here. We've added striping to just kind of give an idea of how, the width of the page. And this is what you're seeing here. This is a single region. This is a single panels region with 3 items in it and 3 different panes in it. So you're clicking here, you're clicking add pane, you're selecting your content and applying your styles to it. Normally, in panels, the back-end editor, if you added 3 panes, they're going to be full width panes, one below the other. That's all you're going to get. There's nothing else that you can do. What I've done with Classic Panel Styles is actually inject all of the markup or all of the styles that are going to get applied on the front end. I've injected them through JavaScript onto the back end. So you're actually going to see as the editor is laying out their content, they're going to see it happening in real time. And I've actually just a couple weeks ago added in support for IPE, the Inplace editor. It's still a little wonky. It actually broke some things on the back end side, but so it allows them to see everything that's going to be happening on the front end. Allows them to see it here as they're laying out their panels. Okay, and I also want to give a little bit of background about. Sometimes people ask, what's the difference between this and, say, panels extra styles or semantic panels? Let's start with semantic panels. It's a great, powerful module. It allows you to heavily customize all the markup that's output with your panes and regions. You can, change IDs. You can change classes. You can change the wrapping elements. You can do all kinds of stuff that, much more than what I've just listed there. That's not what we do. That's not what Classic Panel Styles does. It uses the default pane template that comes with panels and just injects classes into it. Panels Extra Styles, what that does, the idea of that module is, or was, I don't know that it really worked out in the end, was to just provide a new set of drop-down styles for the editors to choose from, right? So when you're editing a pane or a region and changing a style, the idea was there for the community to contribute back a whole bunch of different, useful styles that editors can then use on their sites, which is great. But 9 times out of 10, that's not really going to fit the use case for a given site, right? It's never going to be out of the box providing what someone needs for their site. So the Classic Panel Style module actually allows the themer to define those styles in a much more easy way than having to, you don't have to create your own panel style plugin, which previously, if you wanted to create your own panel style and have it available on the pane or region styles setting page, you had to get a developer to go and write that code for you, right? You had to write a settings form, they had to write a CTools plugin, and do all this stuff just to create a new style to make it available on the panels. So with Classic Panel Styles, we've done that for you, and you get to define all your configuration options through a GUI, and it's all featureizable. Okay, so this slide represents kind of the magic behind what powers this, and we're going to go into a little bit of the technical side of it. Any developers in the room? Okay, cool. About half. That's good. So what we're going to look at here is I'm using the Export UI CTools plugin to capture this configuration. Makes it very easy to featureize, and it's just a really great way to define settings for a module beyond just using strong arm, besides using the Drupal variables too, which was my first approach. At first I just shoved everything into a Drupal variable and it was great, but made it really hard to manage. So now you get the full CTools suite of cloning, exporting, importing, all that stuff just baked right in because of this plugin that we're using. This is what a style plugin looks like. So if you were a themer and needed to create a new style plugin for your editors to use, this is what you would have had to do. You have to write an include file, define the plugin, and then write the corresponding functions and settings forms to go along with that. So that's all taken care of. currently we only have one, when you install the module, you'll only have one classy panel styles option available. We're in the process, or it's on the roadmap, I should say, of creating substyles, so you can have multiple classy panel styles style settings available. So you can have one that's just for regions, one that's just for panes, or one that's just for a certain section of the site, things like that. And the magic sauce that applies these styles in the back end is all done through JavaScript, and you can see I'm just showing an example here of how when we chose background blue as the background here, this is the class that's getting added on, even though it's green for some awesome reason. Where this is getting injected in the back end through JavaScript. So Gendel, if you could talk about the slide. Yeah, so this was, the SAS is included with the module. So we provide a submodule called CPS example, Classic Panel Styles example, and it provides a set of styles for you to just kind of either use on your site or clone and modify or just look at to get a feeling for how it works. And all of the SAS and compiled CSS is provided with that module, so you can work from that as a starting point if you want. Okay, and let's go ahead and jump into, need to change the display mirroring here. Oh boy, it's like 640 by 480. This is awesome. All right. Okay, so here is, man, that is a really tiny resolution. It's like 20 pixels on the left. So here's a site that, wow, it's not even, oh, there we go, okay. So, this is just a test local site I've got running classy panel styles. And let's start in the configuration settings. So under content authoring, classy panel styles, you've got your standard CTools export interface here. So you can edit, clone, disable, and if this wasn't stored in code, you could delete it. So let's look at an example of, we can add a new one, but let's look at an existing one. So this one is where you define where the editors can choose background colors, right? It's a really simple one. All the examples I'm going to be showing you right now are really simple. If Kendall were here, she could show you some really cool, like responsive floating and all that stuff. Sorry. But so with this one, what you can see here is it's got a machine name. This is the human readable name that the editors get to see. And then a description that all the editors also get to see. And this is where you define the classes and the corresponding text in that drop down. So I'll actually go ahead and pull that up too. So you can see background here. That's the wrong option. So these are the the text that the user gets to see, and then this is where it gets defined. So on the left is the class or classes that you want applied, and then on the right the text that you want the user to choose from the dropdown. You can set a default value of what it should come up with as when it's selected. You can make it required or not. You can specify whether it gets shown on only regions or only panes or both. In this case, we only want them to choose background colors on panes. And then you can also choose on which layouts this option becomes available, right? So if you only wanted this option to be available on the homepage layout or on the certain section of your site, you could restrict this option from showing up only on that page, or make sure it doesn't show up on that page because it wouldn't look right. If we save this, yeah, now it's saying overridden. So let's go back here. So I've got two panes here, two custom, one's a custom content pane, one's the Powered by Drupal widget, and if we look at the settings here, like these are all the different options available to us. Let's make it just a strict 50%. Save that. And the screen is so tiny, I don't know that it's actually even going to work. Let's see. Let's make this 25%. No, it's still too small to even.
You might be able to like control minus and zoom out in the browser.
Yeah, there you go. It's not a bad idea. Okay, well maybe been working on the module and maybe some of the CSS is not actually working right now. See if the class is getting injected. We can see here. So it's injecting, yeah, width 33, background black. So I think we've got some, either the CSS is missing or it's being overridden because of some work I was just doing on it. So can't really show you the really super fun stuff. But so normally, you know, if I had two on this left side, if I wanted to have two panes side by side, I could, as an editor, even though I was only working with a, you know, in this case it's a 2-column layout, I could still add two panes here, specify them to be 50% width, and then they would show up right next to each other, both on the back end and on the front end. Update and save that. Don't worry about those. Okay, so yeah, the CSS classes are, you know, it's working here on the front end. I think I've just got some CSS issues going on there on the back end, getting overridden. So you can see here that these are, the only thing I really have going on here are background colors. Let's go ahead and add another class, another widget. Let's do powered by Drupal. And we'll make it style. So here we choose classy panel styles, and we are going to make it 50%. We'll save that. Come back here, and it's not. Oh, so I also need to specify float. So do this. Float left. I think that should be enough, or do I need to float both of them? I think I need to float both of them. Man, this is the worst demo ever. Kendall's usually in charge of demos, and also I've been working on the module, so maybe I screwed some stuff up. But she's also in charge of like making all the CSS and stuff work. I'm just working with a bunch of CSS that was already in there. So I also wanted to show you how this works with the IPE, the Inplace editor. So you can see I've got the IPE turned on here. So we can customize this page. You see I've got a background color applied to a different background setting. Yep, and it's working the IP. Oh yeah, you're right, the floats aren't working. Yeah, I need to powwow with Kendall on. She generated all the SAS and CSS, and then I went in and changed a bunch of the actual markup. So I think I kind of broke some stuff. Yeah, and so right from here, from the IPE, as the editor is using it, like they might not even know about the panels backend editor, right? But they might just do all their work. This is what we've been pitching to a lot of clients who are really, really hyper-focused on WYSIWYG and wanting that control. We try and demo this to them and say, hey, look, here's what you can do. Right from here, from this region, you can add new content. You can add, what we're trying to do is use feelable panel panes a lot. So instead of using, one node, we're using feelable panel panes where you can actually insert the content that you need, insert the fields that you need, directly via panels, rather than through node layouts. So yeah, so right from here we can adjust the classy panel styles. We can, let's give it a background of green. See if that one, yeah. So there you go. Okay, yeah, and this is the this left side. This is the region, so we can also apply some styles to the region. So we'll go ahead and change that. We'll give it a background of black, and you can also add additional CSS classes. And there you go. Let's do light green. So that is, some very simple examples, just changing background colors and floats and widths. There's a lot more coming down the pike with responsive images using Borealis. That's something that Kendall's really, really big on. That was actually one of the original use cases for this module. Yeah. All right, cool. So any questions? Any other parts of the demo you want to see? Anything that didn't make sense? Any use cases? Anything like that? Yes, Mike.
What's your strategy when you export these to features? Like, you export these as like part of, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so feature support is obviously built in because of CTools. So if we go ahead and take a look at that, you could make them part of probably honestly, I'd probably have a separate feature just to store all my classy panel styles in. Yeah, or I might have some sort of, we're very granular with our approach to featureizing things. We have a separate feature for each view, for each panel, everything, which is kind of cumbersome sometimes. But yeah, so I would probably be creating a separate module. But you could also just make it part of, if you had some other sort of front-end feature that contains some front-end settings, you could throw it in there. I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. It's got a classic panel styles section, and because they're all in code except for this one that's overridden, that's the only one that's available to export right now. There are also some settings that are available via StrongArm, which I don't have installed right now, but the settings are here. Some things you get to change are, when you define your own CSS, if you have that in a separate file that's not being loaded with your theme, you can specify that here to make sure that those styles get loaded with your theme. You can disable the back-end panels editor styling, because sometimes it gets a little wonky, so you can disable that if you don't want it. And then you can also change which template gets used. These are the two default templates that come with panels. You can specify which one the classic panel styles classes get wrapped around. So this one is no markup at all, and this one I think is just like a basic div that comes with the default panels region template. Any other questions? There was another one in the back. No? Yep.
So currently it's in the sandbox. When do you think it'll be ready for actual production level deployment?
Yeah, so it is currently under review, so hopefully next week Damien McKenna will be bugging him to get that approved. The API is stable, right? So there's no more changes going on with in terms of everything is from here on out. Any changes will have an upgrade path. For a while that wasn't the case. We had people using it in production and it was like, whoa, hold on. Yeah, so it's stable, and it is, a 1.0 is coming very soon. And it's there. There are a few known issues that are noted in the README that are just the way panels works. This is just a gotcha. Yeah, it's some of the bugs that you've seen right here are just related to the styles that Kendall has created. So just the demo, the CPS example module, some of those styles. But it is ready for production use. So.
I had been writing style plugins to accomplish a similar task.
Okay, cool.
That was clunky and complicated. And
yeah.
required a ton of work for each individual one.
Yeah, and once I get the submodule, or the sub-style feature implemented, then you can create as many styles as you want, rather than right now you just get access to the one, and you can hide and show them based on panes, regions, templates, things like that. But eventually, yeah, you'll be able to create entirely separate style plugins for use on different areas of the site. So, yeah.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from clients who already used it? Or if any, I don't know.
Yeah, it's being used on 3 clients right now, and they're all Kendall's projects. Well, actually, there's a 4th. Matthew Connerton has used it, I think, on 2 production sites, and it's working great for him. One of our clients, we're still trying to sell it on. They are a very large client, and they are, if any of you are familiar with some of the, what are those called? These little WYSIWYG modules, what are they called on Bacon? I don't know. We have a client who's embedding little components inside of WYSIWYGs and then floating them, arranging them within there. What are they called?
You're not talking about the fittable panes, the embeddable?
Yeah, that one. There's like a WYSIKit, not WYSIKit. There's yeah, we got some name for it. They're formerly were called. No, it's kind of like tokens, but they're called weather nodes on one project, weather.com. But yeah, it's a really clunky approach that basically, this module wasn't ready in time for them to really fully evaluate and to take this approach. So they ended up, we're still trying to get them to kind of migrate to this, but they ended up, using a WYSIWYG and embedding the fieldable panel panes, embedding these little entities inside of the WYSIWYG with a bunch of custom WYSIWYG integration, creating buttons to create this extra content and stuff like that. And we're like, no, but that's the way it is. So. Yeah, so we're still trying to sell it to some other big clients, but I'm hoping, I've been presenting on this a lot, working on the module, and hoping that this catches on, because I think it's a significant improvement in editor experience and also content management and structured content and making content responsive. It's just a whole step up from trying to shove it all inside of a WYSIWYG. So, yes.
Okay, so your CSS file path there,
Yeah.
is that rendered on the front end as well as, I guess what I mean is is that rendered for the admin theme as well as, whatever your selected theme is?
It's rendered on the back end. So whatever,
Panels, drag and drop, as well as the front end.
Exactly.
The actual location.
Yep.
I suppose you consider an admin UI checkbox?
What's that?
I don't suppose you consider an admin UI checkbox, so I can just have those rendered just for the drag and drop?
Oh, because you're already going to have the styles built into the...
Yeah, just to try to keep my theme separated.
Keep your theme separated. So, we could definitely do something like that. The question was, can we, have this CSS file only loaded on the back end, because on the front end, all the styles are going to be there in the regular, theming styles. Yeah, absolutely. Or you could just keep these styles separated, but that probably won't work. But if you keep them separated, then you can just, include that CSS file. Yeah, then that's kind of the approach we were expecting. But. The answer is yes, I can do that. You can write a patch for it.
Thanks, buddy.
Since you're halfway a developer. All right, any other questions? All right, well, thanks, y'all. Really appreciate you coming.